All right, let's get right into it. The phrase economic collapse. We hear it tossed around, right? But what does it actually mean? What does it feel like? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and really dig into the true meaning of one of the most intense things a society can go through. I want you to just picture this for a second. You walk down your main street, but it's quiet. Eerily quiet. Every single shop is locked up tight. The grocery store, the pharmacy, that little cafe you love, all of them dark. It's like the entire pulse of your town just stopped.
So you think, okay, fine, I'll just grab some cash. You head to the nearest ATM, but the screen is dead. You try another one down the street, same thing. All of them are offline. Suddenly, that digital number in your bank account feels a million miles away. The connection is just gone. Now, let's say you do find one small shop that's somehow still open. That loaf of bread you bought this morning for $5? Yeah, it's 50 now. And by the time you get home, you hear it's gone up to 500. The money in your pocket is literally losing its meaning with every tick of the clock. This is way more than just a bad day on the stock market, right? This isn't a couple of companies going under. This is something else entirely. You're in the middle of something deep and fundamental. So the question is, what on earth is happening?
Well, first off, we need to be clear. This is not a recession. A recession is like a storm. It's painful, people get hurt, but you know it'll eventually pass. What we're talking about here is a collapse. It's like the ground itself is giving way. It's a total breakdown of the system.
So officially, an economic collapse is when the whole financial system of a country just starts to disintegrate. It's not one thing going wrong, it's everything at once. Banks failing, businesses shutting their doors en masse, and the value of your currency just completely imploding.
And this slide really nails the difference. See, in a recession, trust gets shaken. It's scary. But in a collapse, trust is destroyed. You go from a simple economic slowdown to a complete systemic breakdown, from some people losing their jobs to mass unemployment. It's not just a worse version of a recession, it's a totally different beast.
Now you might be thinking, this all sounds like something out of a movie, but it's not. This has actually happened, time and time again, all over the world. So let's take a quick look back at some real-world examples.
We've got echoes of this throughout history. Think about the Great Depression back in the 30s, a global event. Or, more recently, Zimbabwe in the 2000s, where hyperinflation just went off the charts. And then Venezuela in the last decade, with those crippling shortages of basic necessities like food and medicine.
I mean, just look at that number. 100 trillion. That wasn't some fantasy number. That was a real banknote. It's probably the most extreme example of hyperinflation you can find. It got to a point where money was so useless that people were literally using it as wallpaper.
So that begs the question, right? How does an economy get to that point? What are the cracks in the foundation that can cause the entire structure to just fall apart? Well, it's almost never just one single thing. Usually, it's a perfect storm of really bad stuff. You start with some terrible government policies, maybe they start printing tons and tons of money to pay their bills, and the national debt gets completely out of control. Then, you throw in a bit of widespread corruption and some political chaos, and suddenly, that foundation doesn't look so solid anymore. But if you trace all of those problems back to their source, they all eat away at one single invisible thing. And this is the absolute key to everything: trust. At the end of the day, our entire economy runs on trust. Trust that our money will be worth something tomorrow, trust that the banks are keeping our savings safe.
And the moment that trust vanishes, it's like pulling a pin on a grenade. It sets off this devastating chain reaction. People stop spending and start hoarding. They panic and rush to the banks to pull out every last cent, which causes the banks to fail. And investors, they run for the hills. The whole system just freezes up and implodes.
But here's the thing. A collapse, as devastating as it is, isn't always the end. Societies are incredibly resilient. History shows us that you can come back from the brink. So, what does that long road to recovery actually look like? It all starts with people just adapting. After the official system breaks down, people get creative. You see new local systems pop up, like bartering for goods and services, just to survive. From that chaos, a long, slow process of restructuring begins, and it all has one ultimate goal: to painstakingly rebuild that trust.
So when you get right down to it, the real meaning of economic collapse isn't really about money or stock markets. It's about realizing just how connected we all are to these incredibly complex systems we rely on every single day and, let's be honest, usually take completely for granted.
Which leaves us with a pretty big question to think about. When you look around at the world today, with all of its challenges and pressures,
Do you think our modern economies are truly strong enough to avoid this kind of total failure?
Hey, if this explainer gave you some food for thought, do us a favor and hit that like button. We'd seriously love to hear what you think about that last question down in the comments. And of course, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive. Thanks so much for watching.